It's time for another closer look at a key Kentucky Derby contender. And here's your host, Magic.
Welcome back to RacingNews.com. I'm Magic, and we're taking a look at the Kentucky Derby Future Wager Pool 3, which is going to run this February 11th through 13th if you're betting in the United States. And with me to talk about this is my co-host on the Magic Mike Show, Mike Somich. And Mike, we got 24 betting interests. It's always the any other 3-year-olds that aren't listed tends to be the favorite, but we're going to see some interesting odds here. We're going to talk about the value and where we think you can find it, both with the U.S. pool and then for our international viewers, because we know there's a lot of you as well, where you can find some value. And there'll be some different horses that we get to talk about. So first off, Mike, your overall opinion on the Kentucky Derby Future Wager here.
Crazy bet still. I mean, we talked about this a little bit last time the pool was up. You're going to see some wild fluctuations. White Abarrio, 171-1 in the last pool. Your second choice today. They're crazy how much that's changed in a matter of 2 weeks. You got to hunt value here. Never play the favorites. We talk about it all the time. If you like any of the favorites, find an offshore book that you can play. If you're in a state that allows sports wagering, all of the sports books are now putting up numbers for the Kentucky Derby. Look on there. See if you can get a fixed number that's better than these pools, because the short prices are not going to be here. But it's wild right now because we have still so much to find out here. We don't know if the Bafferts are going to run. If they do, they're in the all other horses. At this point, I tend to think they're not, which means that, it makes it interesting to play one of these horses that's listed, because I would start to argue there's more value in not betting the all other horses if Baffert's not running, because who else are you going to get? I mean, pretty much the top 5 or 6 contenders here that are non-Bafferts are listed on this breakdown.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I'm curious once you get to that one. I've got my own opinion on that as well. But let's go ahead. We're going to take a look at the first 8 here on the list. Sorry. I was holding in a cough too. I was like, we need to hurry up and get to that transition. All right. Me too. All right, Mike. So you see here, we've got Barber Road, Call Me Midnight, Chasing Time, Classic, Causeway, Command Performance, Early Voting, Emmanuel, Epicenter. This is the first 8 here from the odds that you see the morning line before the pool opens. Is there any horse here that jumps out to you with some value?
Man, I think they're all pretty tough for me at these numbers. You can get Epicenter and Emmanuel at bigger numbers than that in fixed odds markets right now. So I kind of lean away from them at the opening numbers. I guess Command Performance at 50-1 would be the one that I think is a little bit interesting, but we haven't seen Command Performance since we saw him at the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. That race has come back really poorly. I don't think that race really set up well for him. He wanted to come from off the pace. There was no speed. Carnegie took that field wire to wire. So I'm willing to give him more of a pass than the rest of the horses in that race. But, you got to find him. I can't see him. I haven't seen him in months. So it's hard to put any money on there, even though 50-1 does seem like a nice price.
For me at this point, Mike, with Pool 3, I feel like I can start playing the game about, okay, who do I think is a good shot to make the Derby? We're far enough into things. It doesn't feel as risky. And so I'm going to start thinking about what are the traits that usually make a Kentucky Derby winner. You need the connections, but you also need a horse that's got a good front-running style of speed. And from here, I'm looking at 3 we know that we're in Derby preps, or Emmanuel will actually be in a Derby prep in Fountain of Youth next, but Early Voting, Emmanuel, Epicenter, all double-digit odds right now that if with their front-running style, if they were in the Kentucky Derby, I don't know that Early Voting will probably be higher priced than 12-1, but Emmanuel, the way all the hype that's on this horse, he's not going into Derby Gate at 10-1 with all of the hype. And I would say the same for Epicenter, who has looked very strong at Fairgrounds. And yes, he lost last out, but that was after doing a lot of dirty work on the front end and getting caught late by Call Me Midnight here, who's not a front runner. So for me, Emmanuel, Epicenter, if I could lock in at 10-1, 15-1, those feel like good prices because, again, if they make the Kentucky Derby Gate from here, I don't think they're going to be anywhere close to that high of a price.
I 100% agree with you, especially on Emmanuel. And you mentioned Epicenter doing all the dirty work on the front end, and you mentioned Early Voting, who was 100% sent up at Aqueduct last time out. I'm a little concerned you have 2 horses that need the lead there. We don't know if Emmanuel can stalk yet, but the way that he ran that Tampa race, the allowance, where he took the lead, but he really let other horses stay close to him and then asked and sent late in the race, makes me think that he may have the ability to stalk. And if that's true, I would much rather have Emmanuel over Early Voting or Epicenter. But again, you're talking locking the 10-1. You can lock in 20 to 25-1 in different offshore books and U.S. sports books right now on Emmanuel. That would be where my money would go versus into this pool.
We'll move on to the next set of 8 here. Move down. Let's see. We're going to start with Forbidden Kingdom here at number 9 for Richard Mandela, son of American Pharaoh, Triple Crown winner in 2015. But we also have God of Love, a Happy Boy Rocket, a couple of new names on here. Howling Time, In Due Time, a new name as well. Major General, Make It Big, and Mo Donegal for Todd Pletcher. Mo Donegal is going to be targeting the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct for his next start. Mike, any value here, knowing especially Mo Donegal is going back to Aqueduct?
See, look, the problem with Mo Donegal is I think we saw kind of who he is. He's that grinder. You made a great example calling him this year's known agenda. I think that fits very, very well from what we saw in that race. For me, I'll take In Due Time at 30-1. I think you may get around 30-1 on In Due Time right now because he's not run in a prep yet. You don't have any points for In Due Time. Coming out of a very nice allowance score over 2 Pletchers that were supposed to be Derby contenders in Ironworks and American Icon. So I like the fact that In Due Time is coming out of that race, and we don't have any points, so we may actually get that price. But to me, in this group, I would take the 30-1 on In Due Time over anybody else.
Yeah, if I had gun to my head, if I needed to take somebody, I might also. The problem with Forbidden Kingdom is I like that the way he won the San Vicente Stakes, which was a 7-furlong sprint, his first start of the year, he had that early speed that you want from a Derby contender. Being from American Pharaoh, a Derby winner, you've got some faith there. But also 2 problems. 1, he's 10-1 on the morning line, and 2, he's co-owned by my racehorse, and they won't let him go off at 10-1 in this pool. So if you like this horse, I don't know that this is the place you want to bet him, because also I don't know that he's much lower than this when he's in the Derby gate, and that's kind of the risk reward here, right? You need a horse that if he's 30-1, that's value for me on Forbidden Kingdom, not 10-1 when I think he's probably 8-1, 10-1 when the Derby goes off.
I think he's 15-20-1 when the Derby goes off if he makes the gate. We haven't seen this horse stretch out yet. That's a big concern for me. He did not gallop out well compared to some of the Bafferts that were in that race. So again, a concern there. And this is the 3rd horse we've mentioned that wants to be in the front. So all of a sudden we're seeing this pace setup that is going to be confrontational at best. And that's going to make it a lot harder for any of those horses to win. That's why someone like In Due Time, who was able to rate in 3rd or 4th place in that allowance, pounce around the outside and make a move, is more interesting to me than a horse trying to wire this field. I think it's going to be very hard to wire the Derby this field. I think the winner is going to come from that second flight.
Especially if you don't have any Bob Baffert horses up on the front end early and waiting for the 3rd, 4th, 5th rebreaks in the stretch. Let's take a look at the last set of 8 here, starting with Papa Cap, who was 2nd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Rattle and Roll, winner of the Breeders' Futurity, still waiting for him to return as a 3-year-old. Simplification, 30-1, Slow Down, Andy Smile, Happy. White Abarrio, Zandon for Chad Brown. And then all other 3-year-olds you see is the actual morning line favorite at 5-2. Let's forget about the all other 3-year-olds, focus on the 7 horses above him. Any value here at all, Mike?
Man, you talked about connections and how important connections are. And you go through this and Cassie, McPeak, Sano, O'Neill, McPeak, Joseph Brown. One of those has won a Derby. That'd be Doug O'Neill. But I don't really want Slow Down Andy. I'm not like Slow Down Andy's big win was at Los Alamitos. We talk about how funky that track is all the time. So that just doesn't seem like that big of a pull to me. White Abarrio at 8-1 is wild. That's way too low. Don't take White Abarrio at 8-1. I love White Abarrio. We drafted White Abarrio. Yep. Happily see White Abarrio win. 8-1 is crazy town. He's 171-1 last pool to close, and you're getting 8-1 2 weeks later. It's nuts. You can get better lines other places if you want to play White Abarrio. I know a couple people that got 80-1 right after the race on Saturday. So 8-1 is a little bit of a discount here. Of this group, I guess I'd go with Simplification. Look, he didn't break well when we saw him last out. He was able to stalk and move and get second. And so I just talked about how I want to have these horses that are able to sit second flight and be versatile. Simplification needed the lead pretty much every other time he'd won a race. For him to miss the break against that group of 3-year-olds and then be able to close around the outside and get up for second against White Abarrio, I thought was really impressive. So for me in this group, Simplification at 30-1 would be my pick. Look, Smile Happy right now is your best 3-year-old. We haven't seen him run as a 3-year-old, though. So there's a little bit of concern there. But the race that he's coming out of the Kentucky Jockey Club, by far the best prep we've seen so far. White Abarrio came back to win. Call Me Midnight came back to win. We're going to see Classic Causeway this weekend. If Classic Causeway comes back to win, it just further flatters Smile Happy. But like you said, the key in these pools is finding value. Smile Happy is what, 5-1, 4-1 on Derby Day? We're 2 months out. There's no guarantee this horse makes the field, and we haven't seen him run as a 3-year-old. Oh, and by the way, Kenny McPeak's the trainer. So you combine all of that, I just can't take 8-1 2 weeks out. They're 2 months out.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. Simplification at 30-1. Also, Antonio Sano had Gunnevera, won the Holy Bull Stakes a few years ago, but he knows how to campaign a horse to get him into the Kentucky Derby. And not only that, Gunnevera, I believe, competed all 3 Triple Crown races, but very solid horse, solid connections that are going to know how to get him there. All right, I'm with you. That's probably the one value from this spot. Yeah, don't touch 8-1. Either of those horses 8-1. Don't do it. All other 3-year-olds at 5-2. What is the right price to take all of the 3-year-olds if I am someone who thinks, listen, the world sucks sometimes, so Bob Baffert's going to be allowed to run in the Kentucky Derby. If I take the negative approach and I'm like, all of the 3-year-olds covers the Bob Baffert horses, which includes Messier, who right now, if he was eligible for the Derby, would probably be atop everybody's list. So what's the right price for me to take at all of the 3-year-olds?
I mean, if you get Baffert's, even money is the right price. Because you're getting not only Messier, you're getting Doppelganger, you're getting Carniche, you're getting a handful of horses here that all would be contenders. And oh, by the way, you get everyone else who's not on this list. I mean, so it's not just the other Bafferts you're getting. You know, if you told me that Baffert was running, 5-2 is about a fair price on a Baffert winning that race. But it's not just the Bafferts you're getting when you're betting all of the 3-year-olds if he is allowed to run in the Kentucky Derby. So that's kind of where this struggles. I mean, I think an interesting way to play this, if you want to kind of hedge, there's an exacta pool as well. You can play all of the 3-year-olds with your favorite pick on this list, play that exacta, which means that if Baffert runs, you have the Baffert horse in first and yours in second. And, you know, if he doesn't run, you still have a plethora of horses that could run second to your horse running first. So I think that's an interesting way to play it if you want to kind of hedge in that sense. Currently don't think he runs in the Derby. We'll see if it happens or not. But the fact that there aren't points and you have to retroactively change points and all this jazz, I mean, horse racing struggles doing anything fast, let alone going through all of that. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, if you told me Baffert was running for sure, I'd take even money on all of the 3-year-olds.
All right, Mike, so that was Kentucky Derby Future Wager Pool 3. It is running February 11th through the 13th. That is if you are betting in the States, you can bet through any ADW. I'm sure if you're on track, you might be able to find some options as well. However, we understand a lot of our viewers might be in Canada, you might be in Venezuela, you might be anywhere that's not the United States, and you can't bet in this pool. So we've got you covered with the overseas international betting. And heck, if it's legal for you, or if you just turn off the settings on your phone, it's legal for you in the U.S. as well if you don't get caught. Mike, let's talk through the odds here. Go through this list. What do you find for value?
Yeah, I mean, right here, like first off, Messier and Carniche, your top 2 picks, 9-1, 10-1. If Baffert doesn't run in the Derby, you're covering a lot of juice there. Jack Christopher, 20-1, won't be running in the Derby, according to our friend Chad Brown. New Gage there, sitting in 7th, 20-1, won't be running in the Derby. So you're getting all of this value back in playing these type of pools if you do think that horse is going to, or those horses are not going to be there. Emmanuel jumps out to me right away, 25-1. We're talking about 10-1, and it's a 10-1 in a pari-mutuel pool versus 25. Lock it in right now. That one jumps right out. White Abarrio sitting there at 25-1. Epicenter sitting there at 33-1. All better prices than what you're going to get this weekend. So this is why it's important to shop around. If you're in the U.S. and you're in the state where you can bet on the sports books, I know FanDuel has this up right now. There's a bunch of different places that have it up that's possible to bet at. So a lot of different places you can look at. And to me, this is first off, you get to lock your odds in, which is huge, right? Versus having to play in a pari-mutuel pool. And secondly, like you can get some nice numbers here, man. I love getting some of these 25, 30-1s. One of the things you mentioned, and I think this is important to note, you said, hey, I just want to make sure I'm getting a better odds than what that horse is going to be in the gate. Well, that to me, Emmanuel jumps out because Pletcher's best horse in the Derby goes off at 5-1, 6-1, somewhere in that range. Emmanuel is Pletcher's best horse. I think we can agree on that right now. 25-1 seems like some value there.
Absolutely. That was the horse that was staring at me right in the face there. And also right below him, also at 25-1 there, White Abarrio is 8-1. Smile Happy, 8-1 as well. So in America, 14-1 there. Epicenter, 33-1. Steve Asmussen, a horse that Joel Rosario has been riding. If Rosario decides between the different options he has for the Derby, if he goes with this horse with Asmussen, I mean, not even 15-1, you're 5-1 maybe for the horse. 33-1 here. Mo Donegal, 33-1. A horse. Papa Cap. I know some people love Papa Cap. He's 40-1 here, and he's 15-1 in the States.
Early voting, 50-1. There's the huge value there comparatively.
A Chad Brown prep winner that's undefeated on dirt and just tried 2 turns for the first time is 50-1. Yeah. That's crazy.
So yeah, I think the main thing we're saying is shop around. Just don't settle on a single pool. Make sure you look at 2 or 3 different sports books. There's 4 or 5 legal in the U.S. There's a ton that you can look at overseas. And obviously you have this pari-mutuel pool. So make sure you're shopping around if you're going to play any of these.
Thanks for joining Mike and I to talk about Kentucky Derby Future Wager Pool 3. If you're looking to bet for more information, go to racenews.com. We have you covered there, along with all the insights for Kentucky Derby trail coverage, the prep races, the contenders, anything and everything Kentucky Derby. We got you there and at youtube.com/racingdudes. We'll see you on the Magic Mike Show and on Blinkers Off. Thanks for joining us. Take care, everybody.
This has been a presentation of RacingDudes.com, your destination for all things horse racing and sports betting. Whether you want free winners, expert insider picks, up-to-the-minute trackside weather reports, or podcasts and videos for bettors of all skill levels, never make another wager without visiting the Racing Dudes first.